It was a frigid winter morning, the kind where the cold bites through even the thickest layers of clothing. The sky was a dull gray, and the frozen lake stretched endlessly, glistening under the pale light. All seemed quiet, but beneath the serenity of the icy landscape, a desperate struggle was unfolding. A German shepherd stood trapped on the fragile ice, her paws frozen in place as her tiny puppies huddled around her. Their soft whimpers carried faintly in the wind, a haunting sound of fear and vulnerability. The mother dog's eyes were wide with a mix of exhaustion and desperation. She had likely wandered onto the lake in search of food or shelter, unaware of the danger lurking beneath the deceptively solid surface. Now she was stranded, unable to move without risking a fall into the icy water below. Her puppies, barely old enough to walk, clung to her sides for warmth. They shivered uncontrollably, their tiny bodies no match for the brutal cold. Hours passed, and the situation grew more dire. The temperature continued to drop, and frost began to form on the fur of the helpless animals. The mother dog's instincts told her to keep her puppies close, but she couldn't shield them completely from the unforgiving elements. The frozen lake was eerily silent, the stillness broken only by the occasional creak of the ice shifting under its own weight. It seemed like no one would come, and their chances of survival were slipping away with each passing moment. Meanwhile, not far from the lake, a man was walking his own dog along a snow-covered trail. The man, bundled up against the cold, was lost in thought, his dog sniffing eagerly at the ground. Suddenly, the dog stopped, ears perked up, and let out a low whine. The man followed his companion's gaze and squinted into the distance. At first, he saw nothing unusual, just the vast expanse of ice and snow. But then he noticed movement, a faint, trembling shape in the middle of the lake. Curiosity turned to alarm as he realized what he was seeing. He could just make out the silhouette of the German shepherd, her form barely distinguishable against the icy backdrop. The man's heart sank as he spotted the smaller shapes beside her. Puppies. He couldn't believe it. How had they ended up out there? The ice was far too thin to walk on, even for him. He stood frozen in place, weighing his options. The man quickly pulled out his phone and called the local animal rescue. "There's a dog stranded on the ice," he said, his voice urgent. "She has puppies with her. You need to send someone fast." The dispatcher assured him help was on the way, but the man couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. He paced along the shore, his own dog whining anxiously as if it understood the gravity of the situation. From where he stood, he could see the mother dog shifting slightly, trying to reposition herself to shield her puppies from the wind. But every movement caused the ice beneath her to creak ominously. The man clenched his fists, feeling helpless. He thought about trying to reach them himself, but the risks were too high. One wrong step could send him plunging into the freezing water, and then there would be no one left to call for help. As he waited, he noticed a small group of people gathering nearby, drawn by his call for assistance. Some of them brought blankets, while others tried to think of ways to help before the rescue team arrived. But no one dared to step onto the ice. It was simply too dangerous. All they could do was watch and hope. The German shepherd's eyes scanned the shoreline, her gaze seeming to lock with the man's for a brief moment. It was as if she understood that he was there to help, even if she didn't know how. Her puppies stirred weakly at her side, their tiny movements a heartbreaking reminder of how fragile they were. The man could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. He knew that every second counted, and he silently prayed that the rescuers would arrive before it was too late. And then, just as the tension became almost unbearable, the faint sound of sirens pierced the cold air. Help was on its way, and with it came a glimmer of hope for the stranded family. But for now, the mother dog and her puppies could only wait, their survival hanging by the thinnest of threads. The man's urgent call to the Animal Rescue Center set off a chain of events that would determine the fate of the German shepherd and her puppies. The dispatcher on the other end listened intently as the man described the situation, her tone turning serious when she realized the severity of the case. "We'll send help immediately," she assured him. her voice steady despite the urgency. The man hung up and stared out at the frozen lake, his heart pounding. He knew that rescue efforts would take time, and time was not on the side of the stranded animals. As he paced nervously along the shoreline, others began to notice his distress. A woman walking her dog nearby stopped to ask what was happening. When he pointed out the trapped family, her face paled. "They've been out there for hours," he said, his voice heavy with worry. "The ice is too thin for anyone to go out. I don't know if they'll last much longer." Soon, more people began to gather, drawn by the growing concern. Word spread quickly, and within minutes a small crowd had formed near the lake's edge. Some brought blankets and coats, hoping to provide warmth for the animals if they were rescued in time. Others stood helplessly, their faces etched with worry. The scene was tense, the quiet murmurs of the crowd punctuated by the occasional creak of the ice. A few brave souls considered attempting the rescue themselves, but the man quickly discouraged them. "It's too dangerous," he said firmly. "We need to wait for the professionals. If someone falls through, it'll only make things worse." Despite his words, the anxiety among the onlookers was palpable. Every second that ticked by felt like an eternity, and the bitter cold only heightened the urgency. On the ice, the German Shepherd was doing everything she could to keep her puppies safe. She had stopped moving entirely, likely understanding that any shift in weight could cause the ice to break. Her puppies pressed against her, their tiny bodies shivering uncontrollably. From a distance, their whimpers were barely audible, but the sight of their frailty was enough to bring tears to the eyes of some in the crowd. Suddenly, the sound of a vehicle approaching broke the tense silence. A rescue team had arrived, their truck equipped with ropes, harnesses, and other tools designed for ice rescues. The lead rescuer, a tall man in a bright orange jacket, stepped out and surveyed the situation. He asked the gathered crowd for details, and the man who had made the call quickly explained everything he had seen. The rescuer nodded, his face grim but focused. "We'll do everything we can," he said, his voice calm and reassuring. The team began to unload their equipment, moving with practiced efficiency. They worked quickly, understanding the urgency of the situation. A drone operator was deployed to get a closer look at the animals without risking human lives. The drone's camera revealed just how precarious the situation was. The ice around the German Shepherd was visibly cracking, spiderweb-like fractures radiating outward from where she stood. The rescuers knew they had to act fast, but they also had to be careful. One wrong move could spell disaster for everyone involved. As the rescuers prepared to approach the animals, the crowd watched with bated breath. The tension was almost unbearable. People whispered prayers, their eyes fixed on the brave men and women who were about to risk their lives to save the trapped family. The lead rescuer strapped on a harness and attached himself to a safety line held securely by his team. He tested the ice with a long pole as he moved forward cautiously. Every step was deliberate, his weight distributed carefully to minimize pressure on the fragile surface. The man who had made the call clenched his fists, his heart pounding as he watched the rescue unfold. He couldn't help but feel a sense of guilt for being unable to help more directly, but he knew that calling the professionals had been the right decision. The crowd murmured words of encouragement, their collective hope focused on the success of the rescue effort. The lead rescuer was now just a few feet away from the German Shepherd. The drone's camera captured the moment as he crouched low, speaking softly to the terrified animal. "It's okay, girl. We're here to help," he said, his voice calm and soothing. The dog's ears twitched at the sound of his voice, and she seemed to understand that help had finally arrived. Back on the shore, the rescuers' teammates prepared blankets and warm crates for the animals, knowing that they would need immediate care once brought to safety. The crowd stood in tense silence, their breath visible in the cold air as they waited to see if the rescue would succeed. The German Shepherd's puppies stirred weakly, their small movements a heartbreaking reminder of the fragile line between life and death they were walking. As the rescuer carefully reached out to secure the mother dog, everyone held their breath, knowing that the next few moments would determine whether the family would survive. The call for help had been answered, but the real test was just beginning. The rescuers were ready to face one of the most delicate challenges of their careers. The frozen lake, now a battleground of tension and danger, held the lives of a German shepherd and her tiny puppies in its grasp. As the team carefully planned their approach, every decision carried immense weight. One wrong move could send the ice shattering beneath their feet, plunging them and the helpless animals into the frigid waters below. The lead rescuer, now harnessed and tethered securely to a safety line, took his first step onto the ice. Each movement was slow and deliberate. The ice groaned softly beneath his weight, a chilling reminder of how precarious the situation was. The crowd gathered on the shore held their breath, the silence broken only by the occasional crack of shifting ice. The mother dog, aware of the approaching figure, stood frozen, her instincts torn between fear and hope. Her puppies huddled closer to her, their tiny bodies trembling with cold. The rescuer crouched low, distributing his weight evenly as he moved closer, speaking in a soft, calming tone. "Easy, girl. We're here to help you," he murmured. The German shepherd's ears flicked at the sound of his voice, her wary eyes watching his every move. Behind him, his team worked tirelessly to ensure his safety. They monitored the tension on the ropes and coordinated every step, ready to pull him back if the ice gave way. A second rescuer prepared to follow if needed, holding additional equipment to assist with the retrieval of the puppies. The drone operator hovered the camera above the scene, providing a real-time view of the cracks spreading beneath the animals. Time was slipping away, and the team knew they had to act quickly. The lead rescuer finally reached the German shepherd. He paused just a few feet away, giving her a moment to adjust to his presence. Her tail, which had been tucked tightly between her legs, moved slightly, a faint sign of trust. Slowly, he extended his hand, holding a piece of food he had brought to calm her. "It's okay, girl. I'm here to help." The mother dog sniffed the air, her nose twitching. After a moment of hesitation, she leaned forward just enough to take the food from his hand. The connection was made. With her trust gained, the rescuer began the next phase of the operation. He carefully reached out and secured a harness around her body. The ice creaked ominously beneath them, but he stayed calm, his movements steady and precise. Once the harness was in place, he signaled to his team. "I've got her. Preparing to bring her in," he said over the radio. The team on the shore tightened their grip on the safety lines, their focus unwavering. Now came the hardest part, retrieving the puppies. The rescuer gently nudged the mother dog aside, giving him just enough space to reach the first puppy. The tiny creature let out a faint whimper as he picked it up, cradling it carefully against his chest. "Hang in there, little one," he whispered. One by one, he repeated the process, each time moving with the same delicate precision. The puppies, too weak to resist, allowed themselves to be handled. Their tiny forms were quickly placed in a small, insulated carrier brought by the second rescuer. As the last puppy was secured, the lead rescuer signaled to the team. "We're ready to move back. Keep the lines tight." Step by step, he began the slow journey back to solid ground, the mother dog tethered to him and the carrier of puppies strapped securely to his side. The ice groaned louder now, the cracks spreading with each movement. The crowd on the shore gasped as one particularly loud crack echoed across the lake. "Steady!" the lead rescuer called out, his voice firm despite the danger. The final stretch felt like an eternity. The ice beneath him began to shift, water seeping through the surface in places. But the team's coordination held strong. With one last determined push, the rescuer reached the shore, pulling the German shepherd and her puppies to safety. The crowd erupted in cheers, the tension breaking like a dam. The mother dog, now on solid ground, immediately turned to her puppies, nuzzling them as if to reassure herself they were truly safe. The rescue team wasted no time wrapping the animals in warm blankets. A veterinarian on site quickly examined them, checking for signs of hypothermia or frostbite. "They're cold, but they're going to be okay," she said, her words met with relieved smiles. The German Shepherd's tail wagged weakly as she looked up at her rescuers, her eyes filled with what could only be described as gratitude. The lead rescuer, now free of his harness, crouched down beside her. "You're a brave girl," he said, gently patting her head. The crowd gathered around, offering their own blankets and jackets to help keep the animals warm. Some wiped tears from their eyes, overwhelmed by the emotional intensity of the rescue. As the rescue truck prepared to transport the family to a nearby shelter, the lead rescuer took one last look at the lake. The cracks in the ice had already begun to expand, a sobering reminder of how close they had come to disaster. But today, against all odds, the German Shepherd and her puppies had been saved. It was a moment of triumph, a testament to the power of teamwork, compassion, and bravery in the face of impossible odds. The rescue had been a success, and the German Shepherd and her puppies were finally safe. The mother dog, now wrapped in a thick blanket, lay beside her puppies in the back of the rescue truck. The once frozen puppies were now warm, bundled together in insulated carriers. Their tiny, shivering bodies began to relax as the team worked quickly to provide them with heat packs and small amounts of warm fluids to stabilize their condition. The veterinarian who had arrived on the scene examined each puppy carefully. "They're incredibly lucky," she said with a relieved smile. "A few more hours out there, and it could have been a very different story." The crowd that had gathered along the lake's edge watched as the rescue truck prepared to leave. Some clapped softly, while others waved, their faces filled with relief and admiration. Many of them had stayed through the bitter cold, unwilling to leave until they were certain the family was safe. A few even approached the rescuers to offer their thanks, their voices trembling with emotion. "You've done something incredible today," one man said, his breath visible in the frosty air. Inside the truck, the German Shepherd appeared calmer now. She looked up at the rescuers with eyes full of gratitude, her tail wagging faintly. It was as though she understood that these strangers had saved her and her puppies from certain death. The sight touched everyone who witnessed it, reinforcing why the hours of tension and danger had been worth it. The journey to the animal shelter was quiet but filled with a sense of accomplishment. The rescuers couldn't help but glance back at the mother dog and her puppies, their hearts warmed by the sight of the family now safe and together. Once at the shelter, the team carried the family inside, where a warm, comfortable space had been prepared for them. The room was lined with soft blankets, and heaters ensured that the temperature stayed cozy. The puppies, still exhausted but no longer in immediate danger, were placed gently onto the blankets. The mother dog immediately moved to her puppies, sniffing each one as if to confirm they were truly safe. She lay down beside them, her body curling protectively around them. The shelter staff monitored the family closely, ensuring their recovery went smoothly. The veterinarians continued to examine them, administering necessary care to combat the effects of hypothermia and frostbite. Thankfully, none of the injuries appeared life-threatening. "She's a strong one of the staff remarked, watching the German Shepherd nuzzle her puppies. News of the rescue quickly spread, with local media picking up the story. Images of the dramatic rescue and the now-safe family began circulating online, capturing the hearts of people far beyond the small town. Offers to adopt the German Shepherd and her puppies poured in from across the region, with many touched by the mother's bravery and the rescuer's determination. Among those moved by the story was the man who had first spotted the family on the ice. Unable to forget the moment their lives had hung in the balance, he reached out to the shelter to inquire about adoption. "I couldn't just walk away," he explained to the staff. "I feel like I was meant to find them that day." The shelter agreed, and after the family had fully recovered, the man was allowed to take them home. It was a perfect match. The German Shepherd, now named Hope, and her puppies thrived in their new environment. The man's large backyard gave them plenty of space to play and explore, while the warmth of their new home offered the comfort they had nearly lost forever. Hope's transformation was remarkable. The once desperate dog now radiated happiness, her tail wagging eagerly as she played with her puppies in the snow. Each day brought new moments of joy, from the puppies' first tentative steps outside to the way they would curl up together at night, safe and warm. The man often thought back to that fateful morning by the lake. He couldn't help but feel that everything had happened for a reason, that he had been in the right place at the right time to make a difference. For him, the family's rescue was more than just a moment of bravery. It was a reminder of the power of compassion and the incredible things people can achieve when they come together. As for the rescuers, they reflected on the operation with pride, knowing they had made a lasting impact. "This is why we do what we do," one of them said when asked about the experience. "Moments like this make all the challenges worth it." The story of Hope and her puppies became a symbol of resilience and the importance of stepping up when others are in need. It inspired countless people to look out for animals in their communities, reminding them that even the smallest acts of kindness can have life-changing consequences. For Hope and her puppies, the frozen lake was now a distant memory, replaced by the warmth and love of a new beginning.